So in today's video, we are going to be talking about the YouTube channel Without a Crystal Ball, which is hosted by Katie Joy. Now, I don't know if you've followed the story, heard about it, are aware of this channel at all, but the reason I want to talk about it today is because this story has gone nuclear in the past few weeks, and it's basically taken on a life of its own regarding Katie Joy of Without a Crystal Ball YouTube channel. Her situation regarding a lawsuit around her and Tati Westbrook, who is a beauty influencer. So what this story is really showing is that this might be a huge karma is a bitch situation, that we are getting a front row seat to the show, basically, of this entire takedown of this person who is really doing it all on themselves. It's being self-inflicted by this person every single day, and it keeps getting crazier and crazier. So we are basically witnessing the downfall of a YouTuber, and it might be one of the first ones of this type, meaning her age, the size of her channel, what she talks about, how it involves other channels, and possibly their entire livelihood could be gone, and we're watching this in real time. So it's both fascinating and very juicy and very entertaining, but also kind of sad to watch at the same time. So that's what we're talking about today, and I was trying to figure out kind of the best way to go about it. So I have a summary kind of my observations and how I kind of came into contact with this channel, and some of the more recent developments that have just taken this to a whole nother level, and kind of what we think might be happening going forward. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on this and kind of what has, and maybe this is the first time you've seen this story, what is going on with this channel, why is it so important, why is it so crazy, make sure to keep watching. And if you are not subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe wherever you're watching, whether you're watching on Rumble or on YouTube. So with that said, let's get into this. So that would be good to start with. How the heck did I find this channel? So I was trying to think back to when I first came across this channel Without a Crystal Ball, because this drama, if you will, it's become more than just petty drama. It's becoming a legal, life-altering event, and I just happened to come across this channel early 2020, right? I think it was during quarantine or right before, maybe, because I used to watch, or I watch on and off, the show Sister Wives. I could probably do a whole video on that and why I watch certain shows that I do and whatnot, but that's for another video. But I watched that show, and the season ended, and that show is very interesting because it's kind of like the continuation of storylines. But when the show was over, and specifically this last season that was a little shorter than I was thinking it would be, I was kind of curious to know what was happening. And now that we have social media, it's a little bit easier to keep track of people or keep up to date on these shows that are reality shows, which at one point maybe didn't have the advantage of social media to kind of fill in the gaps, or we had to wait for a new season to come out if it wasn't a prominent celebrity that was doing the reality show, which would have like paparazzi or tabloid stories that would come out about them. And then, because I clicked on that video about Sister Wives, and I didn't think anything crazy about her channel or whatever, but I think a few months later was when I really kind of was following the story, following her channel a little more closely, because she picked up on the Myka Stauffer situation on YouTube. That was a family channel that allegedly was using their adopted child who had special needs to gain influence online, and they were kind of exploiting that situation. And so because I had clicked on the Sister Wives story, the first channel that I saw talking about this Myka Stauffer, the Stauffer situation, was Katie Joy and Without a Crystal Ball. So I already had a history of clicking on her videos. So she was the first introduction to that story, and that was why I kind of continued checking in on her channel until that story kind of fizzled away, or kind of was resolved, if you will. So that's kind of my history with Katie Joy. And then, of course, because I clicked on a couple of her videos, I was getting recommended more over time, but I didn't really click on many of them until I saw videos related to her regarding this Tati lawsuit and regarding her incidents with other YouTube channels that I kind of piqued my interest and kind of check in a little more closely and kind of observe, and has led me to making this video about all my observations and the craziness that keeps happening, because I keep wanting to make a video and then more and more crazy stuff happening. So it appears today is the right video or right day to film this, because I was actually checking her channel. And by the way, if you're still watching, this is going to be a little bit of a longer video. I should have said that at the beginning, but I was checking her channel because I like to see kind of what she does, because she uploaded a few weird videos recently that were kind of making light of a very serious situation that seemed not the smartest thing to do on her end. And so I wanted to check to see what was lately on her videos. She's been deleting videos too, but she kept her few apology videos, which I'll talk about later on. And her most recent video, which was filmed yesterday, was a live stream that the comments are turned off now, but it looks like during the live stream she had a members only comment section going. It was a video about just content she's working on about Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, which I don't want to give her too much credit without a crystal ball, but the way she kind of described that show, which I was questioning if I should watch it and maybe do reviews on it, since the first episode of the first season, I maybe should do that since I have a history with Housewives. She was talking about that, and it was really weird because I started watching and I was waiting for her to kind of go off the deep end like she normally does on these lives, especially since she recently said she wasn't going to do lives. Part of the whole problem, but I'll get into that later. But I thought maybe she's turning a corner. Maybe she is actually following through with what she said in her last apology video. So I was like, you know what? Maybe it was a good thing that I kind of waited to make a video about her, to where things kind of settled down and I can kind of give a more, like I've said in my last video, a more level-headed kind of, not too much. I don't like to give too much or go too far one way or the other. I'm trying to be kind of fair and at least a little bit helpful for whatever reason she comes across this video, because I don't want to. It's very ugly what is happening, and she is putting herself in a very sticky situation, and I don't really want to see anyone go through that, especially someone who has kids and a family. But like I'll mention in a little bit, it's gotten to the point where it might have to get that bad before things change. So anyways, that was a very long but short reason of how, or thing of how I found Katie Joy. One other thing I want to note, and a few things, is one thing that I also kind of checked in with her channel on was regarding Big Brother All-Stars. So I actually made a video on this channel regarding the situation with Ian Terry, and he's on the spectrum of autism, and he was on Big Brother, which is a reality show. If you don't know, that they live in a house, cameras are filming, they don't have access to outside world, do a whole voting thing, kick people off, whatever. In the live feeds, the 24/7 live feeds for Big Brother, it was noted by fans that some of the house guests had been mocking some things that Ian Terry does as coping mechanisms for his autism, and she made a video on that, and I was able to kind of, I remember seeing that from her and kind of being part of my kind of investigation, if you will, of that story before I made my video. And so what was interesting about that video that she made is it was very telling at the time of her stance on kind of social justice topics like this, where it seems to affect her personally. And I think she said this before, she gets like very mama bear, like, I will cut you, I will go after you if you go after these certain things, my family, or things that affect my family, if whatnot. And you can probably look up videos, compilation videos of her literally lashing out at her subscribers, at people in the comment sections, at other channels. And I remember in a live stream where she talked about this situation specifically with Nicole Franzel, who was a house guest who was part of this kind of making fun of Ian. She showed on her live stream that she went to Nicole's Twitter and tagged sponsors for Nicole's podcast in her reply, saying to like drop her, are you aware of these comments that Nicole is making? You should drop her as a sponsor, blah blah blah. So she has proven that she believes in canceling people. She believes in exposing people. She believes people should not have a livelihood if they do certain things she doesn't agree with. And so that is an interesting note that you should probably just take note of that, and later on we'll kind of touch on that. But it appears that she has that mindset and also thinks that people should not treat her that way. So I'll just leave that at that for now. But before I get into that kind of segue, from my observations, she appears to be happiest when she's talking about people who are doing things that might get them quote unquote canceled or may affect their livelihood in a certain way. And so I don't know where it comes from. I have my theories, but that seems to be what she likes to focus on. And she has this air about her when she's talking about it, like she can't contain her happiness. She just appears to like seeing people literally be taken down. So what's ironic about that whole thing, my whole preface about that story, is now she is mad at people who are leaving her channels, canceling her basically, even though she was perfectly okay with doing that to other people. So it's an interesting situation. So that's why I said at the beginning of this video, it's a very karmic, whatever the word is, very much karma coming back at her for not thinking twice before doing this to other people. So I want to get into a little bit more background of observations that I've seen about Katie Joy, and just kind of lays the groundwork and lays the foundation of why this is such a crazy story and why it is so interesting to people, because she has been so contradicting and hypocritical this whole time. So anyways, so I put in my notes here that she seems to position herself as having sources and a lawyer and a graphic artist, and it seems she kind of throws these terms out that would, to the normal person, would appear to posture herself as more important, as credible, as this public figure. But if you're in the space, and I'm not saying I'm an expert by any means, but when you are someone who creates your own content, on my channel, everything you see is my creation, from filming, to the sound, to the lighting, to the editing, to the graphics, to the titles, to the comments. Everything I post is made by me and come up by me in my head and done by me graphically. I have videos on this channel showing kind of how I do my graphics too. And so the one thing that really started planting the seed and kind of putting me on this path of maybe she's not all she cracks herself up to be, and we can't really take her word as much for it as we should, was her graphics. And the reason I say this is because, and this is constructive criticism, by the way, so you can take this however you want, whether you are mad at me for kind of giving her advice, or you are mad at me for critiquing her because you're a fan. The one thing is the timestamp on her videos in the lower right hand corner covers up the text that is the name of her channel that's on every single thumbnail from now, her most recent ones when she did a quote unquote rebrand. And could be a small thing that's not important, but from what I see, if I come across her video from on my phone going on her channel, it looks kind of weird that the part that looks like you want to read it is blocked. So that was one thing I was kind of like, either her graphic artist doesn't know what they are doing regarding YouTube, or they're not used to YouTube thumbnails, or Katie is not very much aware, or she doesn't understand like how that works. Because usually I've seen most people, when they make a thumbnail, they kind of leave that lower right hand corner a little more empty, or at least not anything that needs to be read that could be blocked. That was one thing. Two, I wonder how much she is paying this graphic artist, because like I said, I do my own graphics on my channel, and it's not that difficult to figure out. I mean, she figures out how to do a live stream and how to use a software that you can put graphics on the screen as you are live, to put comments and read comments and upload and have an end screen and an intro. So I don't understand how or why that's happening. Maybe she likes it that way. I don't know. She's also tried to talk about how the YouTube algorithm works, which appears that she is makes her appear as a content expert. But maybe the covering of part of her thumbnail is just a minor detail that maybe isn't important. But another thing that has come up again was her treatment of another commentary channel run by a girl named Angelica Oles. And she is a YouTuber who Katie actually gave a copyright strike to for covering a story and showing an article of Katie's when she worked for another company or another publication called Pathos. And Katie felt it was an infringement on her rights, to which Katie then asked Angelica to edit the description of her video giving Katie credit, to which Angelica confirmed that it's not possible for her to edit the description of her video because it's unavailable because of the copyright strike. Not the copyright claim, the copyright strike. And so this to me showed, and the difference between the two is, from what I understand, is a copyright strike is someone struck your video as the whole thing is infringement on a copyright, needs to be completely taken down. Copyright claim is you can keep it up, but the person who claims the copyright gets any of the AdSense or the income from that video because it's their right or their property. And so this to me indicated that Katie is not as knowledgeable as she claims to be as far as trying to posture herself as a journalist, as an investigative journalist, as this person who has a kind of an empire or a media company, whatever she wants to say, a business. And I think she did recently kind of apologize for not understanding the system. So I'll give her that, but it was one of those non-apology videos where she kind of also blamed a lot of other people. So anyways, we'll give her that. But another story that happened recently, right before everything really blew up this past few weeks, was her basically sharing her story about sexual assault. And she kind of used that, which appeared at first to be kind of like, hey, I'm trying to advocate for this and give voice to the voiceless. But she really went into this whole gaslighting phase with a recent statement after that about her assault. So she exposed her perpetrator on her channel in her video, kind of sharing her story about her sexual assault. She then got mad at people who found the information on the situation because she gave it out, which prompted her to make the statement, which proceeded to tell people that she's not talking about it and I don't want to comment about it. And then the same day and days after, she does a live saying, thank you, I'm okay, about the situation. Not saying it's about the situation, but alluding to it, even though she told people she doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to comment it, and stop asking her. So she clearly was trying to use that for sympathy and for attention, while also villainizing anyone that questioned it or kind of looked into it even more, even though she's the one that brought it up. And it's also public record anyway. But in an era where gaslighting is being overused, where the term gaslighting is being overused, this instance was like a clear-cut case of gaslighting your audience. So of course, I don't want to sit here and say I think people. I agree that you shouldn't be victimized by your perpetrator, and that people would probably find this information anyways, whether she liked it or not, whether it was legal or not, and you have every right to talk about it. But don't be surprised when you open that door, and that it grows legs and piques people's interest, because this is the downside to me of the whole woke Me Too social justice movement, is that it encourages people to expose things publicly on their own for the quote-unquote common good without warning of the not so great things that come with it, especially if it's already been addressed through a legal process and you've already pressed charges or the person's already been in jail or accused or convicted. So I think maybe she learned that lesson, hopefully, and I think it should be a lesson to all of us that if you don't want something dug into more and you have a public platform, maybe you don't bring it up. Just a thought. So then after that, we had another instance of where Katie was deleting her Twitter account, and which some say was so her tweets can't get screenshots of what she said about people coming after her now, which I'll touch on later regarding Tati and lawsuits. But Katie appeared to be using that as a way to say it had become toxic, so she deleted it and whatnot. Whatever the case is, though, I wanted to say getting off as many mainstream social media sites as possible when they become toxic is important to any person who feels it is affecting their mental health or causing more harm than good for them, which is why I personally deleted Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram earlier this year and while staying on YouTube, but switching to Parler, which is a Twitter alternative, and Rumble I have as a backup to YouTube. So like I said at the beginning of this video, I upload to Rumble and YouTube just as a backup. So that to me is kind of my 2 cents on that, but it becomes interesting later. But anyways, so then we come across a few weeks ago, we have an election, right? And you would think, well, nothing I've talked about up to this point is really political, so why am I bringing up politics? Well, that's exactly the point. She was someone who I remember fiercely singing. I don't remember which live stream I happened to come across recently, but someone was bringing up politics, and she literally just said, "We don't do that. We don't bring up politics. If you talk about politics in the comment section, I will block you, or I will remove you from the chat. The comment will be deleted. Blah 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 blah." But now she was covering politics from election day up until last Saturday, a little over a week ago, when the media called the race for Joe Biden. And personally, I've always been able to talk politics on and offline in a respectful way, because I'm usually in the minority on my views. But this instance to me was a very much do as I say, not as I do situation for her. And to me, it's become that mindset has become very common, and it appears that it's mostly in a lot of people who are against President Trump, and most likely hardcore Democrat. I'm just going to put that out there. Not all of them, but it seems to be those are the people who are being exposed every day for hopping on a bandwagon when it is something they can use to their advantage. So in this case, I believe she used her disdain for President Trump to virtue signal and as a reason to hit back at her critics and grab anybody who maybe agrees with her politically with what she was saying, and get as much support as she can in that way, because she has been under so much pressure in other areas of her life. So I think that might have been kind of a tactic for her to grasp at any support or anything and minimize any attacks on her, because then she could kind of say, oh, well, you're attacking me, but I believe in standing up for these groups of people that are marginalized and whatnot. And it didn't work, obviously. But anyways, now we get into the Tati situation. So Tati is a beauty influencer, most known for her large audience on YouTube, where she launched a makeup line. And before that, she launched a supplement line, which are the subjects of the lawsuit between her, Tati, her husband, and their former business partner. Now, where Katie Joy of Without a Crystal Ball gets involved and becomes part of the story is when she went in on Tati using this lawsuit, it appears, as kind of an excuse to dig deeper on Tati, and went deep with finding things about Tati and her husband and their family on top of covering this lawsuit. And I'm not talking about like, oh, they had, I don't know, something surface level, like, I don't know. But I'm talking like going in as far as paying for birth records, like birth certificates, looking into their criminal records, and using that, something that was on the record books from a teenage year, and fabricating it to make Tati and her husband look bad. I'm talking, she claimed that Tati's husband is a career criminal just because he had a drug charge or drug issue when he was a teenager. Yeah. So this actually sparked Tati, who was being sued, to sue Katie for defamation of character. Now, before that lawsuit came to be, Katie Joy went on her channel and stated that Tati she won't be sued by Tati. It's not possible because Tati can only sue, and this is not a quote, if she can prove that she's innocent. Meaning, if Tati can prove she's innocent, then she'll be able to sue. In that, if Tati sues Katie, then it'll open up the discovery phase, and which is any lawsuit does that, and it will expose Tati for who she really is. But then we have Katie more recently saying, now that she has become the content, meaning before she was making the content and covering other people, now that the tables have turned and people are covering Katie, like myself and other people, because she's involved with the lawsuit and she is the story now, she wants to be treated as innocent until proven guilty, with the person that she claimed should be proven innocent while being guilty until proven innocent. That's what I meant to say, instead of the opposite. So it's just another thing that is hitting at the credibility of Katie and just showing her to be a complete hypocrite and just very not self-aware at all. Now, this is where things quickly get worse and worse for Katie, where she starts digging a deeper and deeper hole for herself, thinking it's being, from what I think, is she was thinking she was doing damage control. But in the process of thinking she's doing damage control, it appears she's actually completely destroying everything in her wake and everything in front of her. So some say her desperate tactics, which is what it appears to be, to blame others, to encourage her subscribers to not look for information from people who are her critics, appear to be tactics, which is the most ironic part and the craziest part, from many of the people she criticizes on her channel. I'm talking the Duggars from 19 Kids and Counting. If you've never heard of them, look them up. Sister Wives, which I touched on before, which is a man who has 4 wives, only legally married to one, but has 3 other ones. And multi-level marketing companies. So that is why this is interesting, because a lot of the tactics she feels they have, which are related to kind of cult-like behavior, she appears to be implementing in this situation to save herself. So it's wild to see this happening. So there might be some subconscious, maybe self-programming because of the stories she covers and because of the parts of those stories that she covers, or she could just be like that self-righteous or has zero self-awareness that it just looks really bad. So that is what has come to. And her big thing that she always has thrown out pretty often, and now that I'm seeing compilation videos of this, is that she is talking to her attorney, which it appears the amount of time she said that and how often she brings it up, that she probably isn't actually talking to her attorney, or she's not paying that attorney the way it might normally happen. And I heard potentially that something about that lawyer, which I'll talk about at the end of this video, but it could be the next phase of the story. But it appears that whole talking to my attorney thing was a way to not only posture herself as more important, of more kind of credible, but also as a way to bait people into engaging, then threatening a lawsuit to them. So she would talk about someone, expose something that's probably should not be exposed, or maybe isn't her business, and then that forces them to engage her and maybe say something about her, and then that's when she kind of threatens a lawsuit or cease and desist or whatever she likes to do to kind of play the victim, to posture herself as something that she's not. So for instance, on my channel, I made a video. I'll give a brief example on my channel. I made a video that after posting got picked up in the algorithm and caused many people to say things in the comment section that were critical of my opinion of my kind of speculation. It got a lot of views. It gained me subscribers, gave me some likes, engagement. And now how it relates to Katie is, it appears that things she covers do that same thing for her, and likely that is what has caused her to kind of steer her content towards what will get her likes, views, subscribers, whatnot. So in my case, if I was following that same mindset, I'd keep covering that one topic that I covered in that video that gained views and attention and controversy and picked up in the algorithm. But it wasn't, that video to me was not about getting views or subscribers, so I don't feel the need to keep going on that topic because it made my point one time and I only need to say something once. So it appears from what I'm hearing from people who were loyal to her before things turned bad is that her coverage of specifically Amber Portwood, who is a teen mom who went to jail, has had a long history in public with trouble. Once she started covering Amber Portwood, which she allegedly got a hold of some audio that was exclusive apparently, started getting her a lot of that attention in that way that I just talked about with my video I did. And it appears that started that cycle of more and more questionable behavior, leading to the situation she's in now, that may be that final straw before she finally learns her lesson. So finally, it looks like she messed with the wrong person who had the image that was being tarnished and had the funds to hit back at people who were really trying to capitalize and gang up on her. So Tati seems to be the person she finally messed with that wasn't going to have it. So it looked like her strategy was to bait people into talking about her for views, subs, money, fueling that even more. So it's just kind of this positive feedback loop of just, if I talk about people, I bait them into talking about me, then I play the victim, and then I gain more views, more subscribers, and blah, 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 blah. Right now, it looks like it's backfiring. But anyways, it could be also that maybe she doesn't see what we see as viewers or as people that are onlookers. But I know that I make everything you see on my channel is something I make, and it could be that Katie actually just has people doing things for her. From what I know, she might have an assistant, or obviously an attorney, or a graphic artist, or an assistant, whatever it is, doing things for her, and even moderators in her live chats and in her comment section, deleting things probably before she sees them, whether it's critical comment or whatever. So she's not being confronted by herself on her posts or before she posts, because she might not be editing her videos. She's just filming them directly and then uploading them right away. So these are the things that I think might be contributing to her getting to the point where she's facing what I've seen, a $5 million defamation lawsuit from a huge YouTuber, even though she probably can't afford, if for some reason that lawsuit goes through and she has to pay that much money, she probably can't afford that. So she's gotten to this point where she might have to learn the lesson the very, very hard way. So now I have a question, and this is for actually a channel that I'll touch on in a few seconds, but it's more of a legal question, and I don't have the answer for this, but I would love to know if her name is Emily D. Baker. She's a lawyer that does a commentary channel, and she kind of breaks down the law part of things. And so I have a question for her. If for whatever reason one of you who's watching this happens to find her, she happens to find this video and listens, my question is, if every channel talks about her and she believes anyone talking about her should get sued, but she can't afford to sue everyone, would her picking and choosing which channel to sue, even though others might be doing the same thing, be discriminatory? Like, could that be a crime in itself? That is my question to Emily D. Baker, whoever, a lawyer, whoever might want to, I guess the word's opine on that, or whatever the legal term is. I would love to know what that, or if you're a lawyer and you're listening, leave it in the comment section, or send it to Emily somehow, maybe ask her to figure this out. I don't know. But I want to know what that is, because I know just from being in a workplace that if 10 people are breaking a rule and you only punish one person, I mean, that could be a very sticky situation, human resources wise, and as far as discriminatory, especially if they all have different kind of backgrounds and different makeups. It could be used kind of as a way to say that you're being discriminatory. Anyways, want to know if this is the same, let me know. So I have a few more things before I wrap up, and then I'll leave it to you in the comments and we can chat in the comments. But I just want to give a quick update on a few things that have happened in the last week specifically, because that's what really has accelerated and given this a rocket ship straight up to like one of the top stories right now. So in the last few days, she is now allegedly doxing people, especially a bigger channel that was covering this story, even though she was concerned when it was allegedly done to her, meaning she was doxed. She has been threatening to sue commentary channels for just talking about the story, even if they're talking about their opinion or saying their opinion or covering just what's already out there. She is lecturing lawyers online, both commentary channel lawyers and Tati's lawyer, the one that has served her with her lawsuit, about the law and the ethics around law. So lawyers who are bar certified, who uphold an ethics standard, or else they get debarred. Crazy. And by the way, that commentary channel is Emily D. Baker, the one I just asked a question to. And she's also given, this is Katie, by the way, given multiple non-apology apology videos where she said, I'm sorry if. So she said, I'm sorry if, for example, you felt this way. I'm sorry if I made you feel this way. I'm sorry if you felt the need to do this. Or I'm sorry if all these other channels are ganging up and you felt the need to do this. Or whatever it was. And then the more serious one that I think is what Emily Baker was talking about was the deleting of evidence of her dealings with Tati after it appears, or allegedly she was notified to not delete evidence as part of the lawsuit that Tati filed against Katie. So she kind of privated or disabled her Twitter accounts and other accounts to kind of allegedly delete evidence of things, but people had screenshots. So now Tati's lawyer is asking those people to give the screenshots to him. Crazy. And then the one thing also that's very concerning, which was another acceleration of the severity of this story, was, according to Emily D. Baker, who's a lawyer, she said Katie sharing parts of her conversations with her quote-unquote attorney on social media may result in her interactions with her lawyer becoming part of the lawsuit, and could be her waiving her attorney-client privilege, which is basically the privilege. Emily does a great job explaining this, but basically the privilege you have between you and your attorney for those conversations to be private and can't be brought into whatever's going on. But if you waive that privilege, then anything you and your attorney say can be put out there. I'm guessing if maybe you and your attorney are talking and some things you don't want to get out there, or some things that aren't really part of this or whatnot, that would kind of make the case worse, if you will. If you talk about it, then that's kind of that privilege. You can figure out how to deal with it. Looks like she might be waiving that privilege. So that I think might be the next step, is Katie and her attorney, what they're talking about, and what we don't know yet, could be exposing the real intentions behind Katie's coverage of Tati and how she got this inside scoop on Tati's life. And what people are alleging, and this is not a fact, this is just what people are thinking. They're kind of putting pieces together that they think might go together. Some are hinting that Katie Joy and the guy suing Tati, who was a former business partner for Halo Beauty, which is the supplement company, are in cahoots, are in conversation, and that Katie's attorney might be privy to this and might have talked to Katie about this. And if Katie waived her attorney-client privilege, then all that could come to light, and that could just blow this story even wider open than it already is. So I think I'm going to end on that. I know this was a lot longer video than I normally post, but this story is crazy, and it just keeps getting crazier and crazier. So there are a ton of videos. I'm sure you're getting recommended. If you clicked on this video, you're probably getting recommended other videos, or you will start getting recommended other videos. But I want to know what you think so far. I like to think I welcome everybody on this channel, unlike Katie. So if you have an interesting comment, maybe you agree, disagree. Was there anything I said in here that kind of was a different take, or something you didn't think about before? And if you have contact with Emily D. Baker, I want to know what's going on with that question I have. Maybe I'll actually go to her channel and leave the question, because she does do live streams and answers questions with people. So I would love to know that answer. And like I said at the beginning of this video, if you want more social, political, and cultural commentary from me every week, make sure to subscribe, whether you are on Rumble or you are on YouTube. And if you liked this video and you liked what you heard here, make sure to give this video a thumbs up on YouTube. If you're on Rumble, hit the punching bag or the plus sign below this video or above to give it the equivalent of a like, and I will love to chat with you all in the comment section. So thank you again for sitting through this, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye-bye.